All right, a little bit of obsession going on with this vintage paper and the wood grain type of paper with the latest scenes that I've been doing. But I want to try something with this lighthouse stamp. I've used, the white pigment ink to make a moon that looks really good on this type of paper. And I thought, okay, one of the things that I like to do sometimes is to create a light beam. And you can have that coming out of the clouds or something like that, or coming from a sun, moonlight, that type of thing. But I also liked it with the lighthouse as well. So we're going to try something with that, and we're going to try it in a reflection card format here, just to make things a little bit more exciting, okay? We can just do that, really quick scene without this lower portion, but the lower portion is going to add, hopefully, a really dynamic look and do it in a very quick way, and you'll see how that comes together. So quarter page card here, and let's get started on that. Okay, so I'm going to put a moon over here. I'm not sure what this is going to look like with the light beam coming. Maybe, I tell you what, actually I'm going to do like a moon rise. How is that? We'll do it really low down here. We'll see how that goes. I don't know, it might look kind of weird with that light beam going across the top, but the things that reflect really well in a reflection card are the things closer to that mirroring element, which is the gold or silver mirrored foil. So let's put this one a little bit lower. Like I said, it might look kind of strange, but I don't know. Let's test it out. Okay, let's go a little bit more. I'm putting this, so this piece of vintage paper happens to be pretty light in value, so that moon isn't standing out too much, but you can see it'll stand out reasonably well in that gold foil right down there. Okay, see, if I stand it up really high, I don't know if it would reflect too much. I mean, you'd be able to see it, but it just wouldn't be quite as distinct. So anyways, not an error if you stamp it higher or wherever. All right, I'm going to go with the stays on, I think, with this lighthouse here. It's just because I'm going to use some brilliance ink going across there. So I just want this to dry really fast. I really need to re-ink this pad here, but let's just go with it right now, like so. I have this lighthouse image. Some of the rocks going off of my page, about a quarter inch or so, I'd say. And the gold foil is going to represent the water that's surrounding the the rocks and lighthouse. Okay, I'm holding this down a little bit longer to allow that ink to transfer and to set up on the paper and adhere to it, okay? So, I mean, it doesn't take forever, but, just hold it down long enough for it to transfer like that. And let's see. See, like that? You don't have very much ink left on here, okay? Okay, now, while we're stamping, let's get our lower section down here. This is the Rocks and Waves stamp. I'm going to stamp it right down here in the corners of the page like that. These will represent the foreground. Now, if this was going to be a longer term type of project, not too much. I might put a little bit of white pigment ink down here, just so that these waves show up a little bit lighter. Okay, but I want this to be a fast type of process right here. I'll add in a little bit of splashing waves down there with a white pigment ink or something like that. Or not white pigment ink, but white paint pen. So we'll get a little bit of that element down there. It'll just be a little bit faster than using white pigment ink plus, the paint pen. I want these cards to be really dynamic, but also we're going for speed here. Not hurried, but, you know, just really quick styles. Okay, I just went for a little rock right here just to fill in that little area down here, but here's these rocks down here. And let's show you what this is looking like right now. You can almost just, you know, I mean, if you really wanted something like, you know, like a 5-minute card, you can do something like this, but this is how it's looking right here. You get that lighthouse reflecting down there in the water. It looks really calm, doesn't it? Like that. Okay, so let's have a little bit of fun here. This is going to add a little bit of time to it, but not too much. You take a couple pieces of paper like this, and you flare this out like so, okay? However, you want that beam to be. I tend to go like that a little bit, okay? And now what you do is you just take your pigment ink. I'm using a Brilliance, but I do believe that with this kind of lighter application of pigment ink over the top of our paper, you can go with a oil-based pigment ink. It might take a little bit longer for it to dry, but here's the key here. You don't want to do a big slathering of this pigment ink, okay? What you're going to do, now my pad is kind of dry. I have a couple different white Brilliance pads, okay? Like I said, you can use, you know, whatever, your hero hues or whatever. And I'm adding a little bit more ink over here. It's not like a big slathering, although in this paper you could, I guess, because it's so light back there. But what I'm doing is I'm utilizing it from kind of a thicker coating over here, and then I'll dissipate it over here. I'll kind of use a little bit of a lighter application so it's drier on here as I'm going over here. So it's going from whiter to a little bit darker, or wetter to drier out here, okay? Thick to thin. Now I'm not going for a really super bright beam here. I don't think. I'll have to see how it's reading on here. Okay, well, see that beam like that? I do have to go a little bit more, I think. Again, because this paper is kind of light to begin with, so just, you know, let your eye be the judge of it and add more accordingly. If you add too much, you can just kind of dab some of it off too, that being said. So it depends how dark your paper is. I had a pretty thick amount right there. I'm going to wipe some of it off. I'll spread it out a little bit. I found a wet spot on my ink pad. Kind of like the edge was a little bit more juicy. Yeah, like that. Okay, so I kind of dissipated a little bit out here. Maybe I added a little bit too much over here. Let me like wipe some of it off like that. How's that? A little bit better. Actually, this edge. Let me crisp up this edge. I think I moved my paper around a little bit here. Let's go like this. You can do it too, where it's kind of brighter, less so brighter. You know what I mean? It looks like it's cutting through the fog when you have it a little bit kind of oscillating between light and dark too. So that being said, you don't have to do it perfectly, and it might even look better as a result, or more natural, I should say. All right, so you have that in there, but see that area right in there? That's not, that should be your source of light, so you can use a little colored pencil in there. I'm going to use a paint pen here to color in my lamp here to make it lighter in here. See that that's light enough right there. I might go with all the way to white. This is a little bit of a beige one. And see these windows right here in the lighthouse, in the tower or whatever. I'm making those a little bit lighter as well, just so they stand out. But like I said, this piece of paper here isn't terribly dark, so I don't know if that's standing out enough for me. So maybe, let's see here. Let me see if I can find my white pen. A little bit lighter, a little bit more contrast. like that. Yeah, that sounds out pretty good. Okay, let's take a look here and see how that's looking right here. Yeah, look at that kind of beam down there in the reflection area like that. Looks pretty cool. Okay, so let's add a little bit of sparkle down here, and I think a boat or something like that is going to look really great in the water. So let me go with the little bit toned down paint pen. And you try to make this a little bit, kind of varied a little bit. I have these little splashing waves. So I'm kind of clustering these little dots down there like that. And then you kind of spread them around a little bit. There's a lot of contrast here, so I'm going to add it fairly sparse right now. And then, take a look and see how it's going to look in context. Okay, so with this, like that. So I have those little splashes down here. But that really stands out, so when I see that, let's add a little bit of splashing around these waves like that. I have the splashes already kind of drawn into the design, so you're just kind of adding some more to it. You don't have to like invent it like, oh my God, where do I put the splashes? You can see the splashes around in the design, okay? And you can just add a little bit more. I kind of cluster some of my dots a little bit. That I kind of make it a little bit irregular. I have to kind of consciously make it irregular because I think we all have kind of a pattern where we're doing things in a very patterned way. Dots are all whatever quarter-inch apart from each other or something like that. It happens to me too, but I find that happens with a lot of people. Okay, now see down here, I think this would be a really cool place for like a boat or something like that. So let me go find a good image for down there. Okay, I thought the perfect little boat would be or fishing boat, and I think I'll put it like right around right here so that it's partially in that reflected moonlight when this is at kind of the ideal angle. So let's see, I don't want to cover up the moon completely, but let's have it around right here maybe, something like that. Okay, so I'm just getting general bearings, of where it might go. Maybe this is a lobster boat in Maine. Who knows? Okay, now remember when you're stamping on the foil, just use the stays on ink, or or equivalent. Permanent ink, solvent ink on down there. Stays on just happens to be the brand that I'm using here. But, something that's going to stamp on this. Okay, you have that, look at that, like that. Look how three-dimensional that looks like that. Look at that lighthouse in there. Look at that position of that moon change in the reflection area down there. Okay, let's see. I think I want to go with like a word stamp, or do I? Somewhere up here. It'd be good if we had one kind of vertical like this. Of course, if I put one up there, is that going to interfere with the beam? You want to put any kind of word stamp, I think, kind of out of the way up here where it's not going to be reflected upside down in the water, Unless you're doing that for a purpose, then I would put it like right on this, and then it would reflect down here. I think that'd be kind of cool too. I haven't done that yet. So let me think about that one. Or maybe some birds or something like that. Okay, I think I like that moonlight, but it's also because it's a real skinny letter form font, and it'll fit right into that space there. So with the scenic sentiment stamps, you can kind of think about your wording afterwards and just use whatever's going to fit in a given space thematically and size-wise, but you can also kind of work an entire scene around it, I mean, it'd probably be good if you kind of thought about that going into it, but a lot of times I don't, and it's kind of more of an afterthought. But I think that looks pretty good right there. All right, so on something like this is really floppy. So if you use a tape runner, I'd go across there and do a cross type of thing to really get this locked down, as opposed to just going around the corners like this, because it would leave the interior kind of floppy. This is just a cheap kind of, paper that you'd run through, your printer to print things on. The lower portion is the cardstock, so it's a nice thick cardstock. So, just right around the corner like that, or you can use a spray adhesive. But what about that? I think that looks like a pretty cool reflection card. You get that dynamic kind of moon going on down here. You have the light up in the sky like that. I think that looks pretty cool as well. That moon looks like it's like rising or setting like that. And so when someone opens this up, you get that movement a little bit in the the area down there. It's not rising too much on this one. If I had it a little bit higher, it would move, a little bit accordingly like that. But we have these rocks down here that are kind of blocking off the area down here and giving it a little bit more of a three-dimensional look. There are, you can do a horizon card too, where you just don't have any foreground and everything's just completely mirrored, and symmetrical like that. But if you want to go for a little bit more depth, I think that works. A little bit more contrast up in here with the windows, which helps the reflection of it down below. See that's white down there, how it stands out a little bit more. And then you can see how much brighter that light is as opposed to this beam right here that's cutting through the fog. So it's a little bit, more subdued in there. So you get a lot of variation just with the, just with some really minor types of techniques used in here. And of course, the thing for me is, when you look at a reflection card, it's really great when you rotate things around like that and look at that boat down there move against that, the boat move against the moon reflection down there too. And things like text down here would look cool too, because it looks like it's floating on water. So I wouldn't do that with the text up there and down below, but just saying that that's another option for you. And we're coming up on winter. You can use a silver one down here for a winter scene up top there, and this could represent ice or a frozen lake or something like that. Okay, so we're at 17 minutes here, so that's a pretty quick, card right there. I mean, it was kind of going fast, but I don't feel like I was rushing or something like that. We have a lot of little techniques in here with a lot of little details and so, so we didn't leave out, anything really significant on here. And I think this makes for a really super dynamic card. And I do think that, that beam up there looks pretty good. It's nice and far down in here. I guess it would look good going across here too, but I like the moon as being the main kind of reflected lighting element down here. So I think that, I don't know, that might be the first time I put like a moon underneath my light beam, from the lighthouses before. I don't know, I can't remember exactly, but I think that is the case. I'm not sure. Okay, so the vintage paper up there I think looks really good. It looked to me like more of like a water-stained antique vintage paper. So I thought that might be a good combination with the water scenario down here. You don't see too much of the antique patterning up here down there in the reflection because it's just too subtle. But you see a little bit of it, and it is a warm tone down here, so you get this light reflecting up on here, which is warm, and then this is reflecting back, so that kind of makes for an interesting scenario like that. Okay, thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope to see you on the next Stampscapes channel video.